So you were a Marine, and
was a Marine.
you told me that it's kind of how it brought you to do logistics.
Right.
Because explain to me what you do exactly, because I'm not sure.
Well, my main focus is supply chain logistics, and teaching that. And how I got into that is I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. In my last 10 years, I was an officer. And as an officer, I was involved in.
So where is the officer rank? How does that work?
So we start out with enlisted. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1989.
Oh, shit.
A while ago. Yeah. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and that was right before the first Gulf War kicked off. Okay. My brother was a Marine, and I joined the Marines, and then the Gulf War kicked off, and then I went in what they call open contract. So I should have been either a grunt or a cook, one of the two.
What are those? The grunt is
a grunt's an infantryman.
Okay.
Right, and a cook is obviously a cook. So because
yeah.
I had no special skills on my contract, I just took a test that said I was smart enough to fix radios.
How smart do you have to be to fix radios?
There we go. Right, fixing them. So I became a radio repair person. And while I was going through radio repair school, they said, "Okay, you're going to be
in the Army,
in the Marine Corps."
Oh, that's very important, though.
Yeah, in the Marine Corps.
Because I've read a few books on the Marines, and they were saying that the radio guy is one of the most important guys on the team. No.
Well, I fixed them. I wasn't a radio operator.
Okay.
And a radio operator is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So a radio operator is the one that carries the radio that they use to communicate. Because while you're in the middle of nowhere, your lifeline is the radio. That's what calls in the air, calls in support. It tells people what's going on so they can move units around to where you need to be. But I was a radio repair guy, and I fixed what they call microwave equipment, which was big dishes that shot signals back and forth.
Oh, is that the thing in the movies where they have the small dishes to pick up the?
That's the small one, but I repaired big ones.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I did. And while I was there, and I was in school for a year, then I went to Okinawa for a year, in Okinawa, Japan. And then while I was in Okinawa, Japan, I became a Marine security guard, an embassy guard. So I served there and went to Santiago, Chile to be an embassy guard. So I was protecting embassy personnel in Santiago, Chile. And so
how was that?
That was a great time.
How long were you staying there?
I was there for 12 months, so we're one of 5 to 6 Marines at any one time in a U.S. embassy in a foreign country.
Huh.
So you can imagine, and we're
all. So there was only 4 or 5 Marines.
5 to 6.
5 to 6.
5 to 6 Marines in
the whole thing, in the whole
embassy.
Okay.
In the embassy right there in Santiago, Chile.
Hmm.
So you can imagine we were all young men in a foreign country,
that was cool.
Working for the embassy. So we're like at the State Department level working there. And so it was a great time. A lot of hard work. We basically secured the embassy. We served inside and we checked IDs and made sure that people coming in were supposed to be there. And if ever there was any reason to defend the embassy, we would be the ones that would defend it.
Did that happen once?
We had a couple fires that we had to go in and make sure that no bad guys came into the embassy while they put out the fire. But it's easy for us as Marines. We're like, that's no big deal because it's what we do, So I was there, and other than that, it was a really quiet post, for me to do that. And then from there, I applied.
How old were you when you were there, though?
I was 20 years old. 2021.
21 years old.
21 years.
And you're in charge of the whole security of the embassy.
No, I'm not. I'm working for the guy that's in charge.
Fool.
So, But there would go down, and you say that, but at night we would be like the only Marine in the embassy, right? We would be the only ones there securing, walking around, making sure there was no classified documents out, make sure that was put away properly, all the doors were locked and all the other good things. Remember Bourne Identity? Bourne?
Yeah.
The first one when he was going in and he beat up the Marines. Well, I was one of those guys that would have got beat up.
But luckily that didn't happen to you.
Fortunately, no. I didn't. Bourne did not come through us to
imagine. Imagine how
right. But there are people like that out there, I guess, somewhere, and
and it must be true at some point, no? Because those things must be based on some sort of, because if we can conceive something, usually it's because somewhere it happens, right?
Right. Somebody has that thought somewhere. There's a person like that somewhere, right?
Then those guys, they must be real in some sort of capacity.
But we would never know it, right?
Exactly. If they're good, they would never know.
If they're doing their job right, we will never know who they are. And then, so while I was at the embassy, I applied for an officer program and got picked up for an officer program where they actually sent me to prep school to get smart. So I did 4 years of high school in 12 months to teach me math, reading, English reading, chemistry, and all those things before I went to university. And then I went to the University of Florida.
So basically, you did all of high school in 12 months.
12 months. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I did my high school. I graduated high school, came in the Marine Corps, but I wasn't smart enough to go to college, you know. But then the Marine Corps said, okay, we think you have some leadership. We're going to go ahead and send you to college. But before we send you, we got to make sure you're smart. So we're going to send you to prep school. So they sent me to prep school.
Oh, that's what prep school is.
Yeah. So it's just basic things. So I got smart, and then I went to the University of Florida, all while still an active duty Marine, earning, full pay and benefits. So now I'm a young man, Marine, at the University of Florida. So
how was that?
That was a good time too.
Oh yeah.
That was a real good time. And then I finished my 4 years, or 3.5 years. I finished my degree, got my commission as a second lieutenant, and then became what they call an Amtrak officer.
What does that mean? When you get your commission?
So now you have enlisted Marines, or what they call E1s through E9, and they're the worker bees. And then you have the officers who are like the managers. So if you were to think of a business, you would have people that do the work, and then you have the managers, and the officers and the managers, and then the enlisted are the ones that do the work.
Oh, okay.
And in the Marine Corps, we're a little bit different because we tend to be more focused on leadership. So we can have a Lance Corporal who is like an E3 at the bottom of the totem pole.
What's E3?
That'd be like a Lance Corporal.
Oh, okay.
So his rank would be E1, E2, and then E9, and then you have officers at another level going up. But a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps can get a lot of stuff done. They're very capable, very focused on meeting the mission, and they can take a little bit of nothing and make it into something. It's like when people say, well, there's a 99% chance of failure, a Marine says, so you mean there's a 1% chance of success? And we're like, oh, yeah, okay. We got a shot.
How good can we bet on that 1%, though? Like, how prepared are we to make sure?
It doesn't matter. We're going to find a way, right? We're going to come in.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible is what you meant.
There's a chance.
There's a chance. There's a small chance. You said there's 1%. We could possibly make this work.
Well, if the payoff is big enough, then maybe 1% chance of success is good enough chance.
In the service, the payoff is living.
Yeah, exactly. So
is it worth it? Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think we can make it work. And so then I became an officer, and then I was an Amtrak officer. These are when you see a Marine Corps commercial and you see these vehicles come up out of the ocean, and the Marines come out of the back. You ever seen those? Yeah. Usually when you watch the football games. Well, I commanded a platoon of those, 12 of those.
Oh, okay.
So I'd be the lieutenant that would bring all those vehicles up, and the Marines would come out the back, and then they would do their
the transport via.
That's right.
Okay.
But we come off a ship onto the beach to do that. So, and then from there, I got an opportunity to become a supply officer to do what they call a career broadening.
Is that what you said
tour.
You were on the boat?
That's when I became. Well, the next was a supply officer at the School of Infantry, and it was at that moment I realized nothing happens without a supply chain. Nothing. No Marine can do anything. No infantryman. No operations. Nothing can happen without a supply chain. So I wanted to be part of that, to be involved in that level of planning, that level of detail, to ensure an operation could be successful.
How much details, like how much planning do you talk about for what was standard operation in the Marines? Let's say.
You'll take it from beginning to end. So you'll plan out from the moment you would leave a base, a fire base, all the way to conduct your mission, all the way back. So anything you would need, bullets, first aid equipment, food, chow, water, the equipment that you're going to wear, night vision goggles, radio equipment, batteries, everything you would possibly need for that, you would plan that out. And a supply officer would be responsible for making sure that stuff was available for the units to be able to execute that mission.
Oh yeah, because you can't be short on one thing when you need to do a mission.
Right.
Because
well, you need batteries, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, usually the comm's the first thing to go, right? We're talking about the equipment here. The first thing that's going to go wrong is the equipment's not going to work. So you want to make sure you have enough batteries. You want to make sure you have, of course, ammunition to fight a battle when you have to fight the battle. You want to make sure you have that. And what a supply officer does is make sure all that stuff is available for those units to execute and use the things. Because whatever they have is what they have.
And then so even in the Army, you were involved in those strategic planning for supply.
Different levels. So in the Marine Corps, not the Army, different.
Oh, sorry.
Very different in the military. You'll see, we're brothers, but we're brothers. You know, we kind of, it's not the same thing.
So the
for
Marine
sure.
says the Army is a pussy.
No, we didn't say that. We all have our different missions, and it's funny you say
Who's
that.
the best one though?
The Marine Corps, of course. You know, Marine
Well,
Corps. is the
you're
best.
one, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, what's really interesting is I was doing my retirement speech in 2010 was that I did an analysis, and less than 0.01% of the population actually serves today. So anyone that's in any service, whether it be the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, any of those services, it really says a lot about their character when they step to become part of that. Because everything that happened after 9/11, everybody that joined at that point forward, even till now, knew they were going to war. It wasn't like I'm going for the education. I'm not going for the experience or the travel. They knew they were going to war.
Yeah.
So the fact that anyone volunteers, even today, people that volunteer for the service, they even if they don't make it through boot camp, let's just say they stepped up. They stepped up and willing to do something. Because when you're in the service, you're just 24/7, 365.
Yeah, because it's hard to be a Marine, to become a Marine even. It's very hard, no?
It is, but it's what you do. Nobody becomes a Marine for the education or the money. That's for sure. Most of us are a little bit touched in the head, Again,
A lot of Texan for some reason.
right, just a little bit there, But we know we're there for the challenge. We're there for the hard work. We're there to be Marines. That's what you go. That's why you join the Marine Corps.
Are you from Florida, or you're? So were you born here?
No, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I moved a lot as I was a kid. My dad just moved a lot with his job.
What did he do?
He was he was in corporate America. He was in pest control, so that's what he did. And
For Monsanto or some
like Terminex, Orkin, these pest control companies, these large companies. That's what he worked, and he would be like a big manager that would go in and fix different branches. We moved a lot to do that.
Huh, well, I guess it's a big market.
Yeah. Pest control, everyone needs, and they call it pest control and not pest elimination. So there's always a market for bugs. It's always a market to kill some bugs.
Kill some bugs, I bet.
But that moving, I think, helped shape my ability to do things and to go out and, just to
makes
have
you
different experiences,
able to adapt.
in
easily.
different areas. And
I
do
guess you
that.
kind of saw like what you need to move somewhere too.
Yep. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to that when I was that guy. When I was that young.
Subconsciously, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So then I became a supply officer. While I was in that tour as a supply officer, I got my master's, and I actually got my doctorate in business, international business.
Nice.
For that. But then I went back to the fleet and operations, and I was a logistics officer for a Marine Expeditionary Unit. So while I was an Amtrak officer, I deployed into the Mediterranean, and there was really nothing going on. We were just on a ship. And what a MU is, a Marine Expeditionary Unit, we are pre-positioned forces forward for the president to use at his will to enforce the policies of the United States. So whenever there's an embassy evacuation, you've heard of, there was recently, I forget which one it was, there was an embassy that was evacuated because the country was just collapsing. The Marine Expeditionary Unit would go and evacuate that embassy. They would show up with a ship, helicopters, Marines, they would go in, they would get everyone out. If there's a natural disaster, like a tsunami or an earthquake or a volcano or anything like that, and there's, they need people on the ground to take control of the chaos and put order in the ground to make sure people got, water, food. The Marine Expeditionary Units are the first ones to show up to make sure that all that happens. And so I did that as a lieutenant, and then as a captain, I did that as well. But I was a logistics officer this time with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, 26 Combat Logistics Battalion at the time. And that was the idea was all the MUs were going into Iraq. Like it was just another unit, just another way to go in there. But we ended up not going in there. So when we came through the Red Sea, we hung a right instead of a left. And so we did work off the east coast of Africa. We were doing pirate interdiction before pirate interdiction was known to be going on. The Navy was out there flying drones and looking for pirates and doing that kind of stuff. And so we were out there doing that.
I never thought there was still going to be pirates
Yeah.
now.
They're all over the world. They're even in the Caribbean, so I don't think. So if ever you decide to take a sailing cruise in the Caribbean, beware. They're out there. So yeah.
Is that common though? Like pirate attacks on ships.
Mhm. In the especially in Africa, off the east coast of Africa, in that area, and then also in the Pacific, in the West Pacific, across Malaysia, Philippines. There's a lot of pirates in those areas as well. Yeah,
And then
What?
so basically they steal the merchandise and then they resell it.
they take the boat, they ransom, steal stuff. I mean, the scheme we hear about now on the news is they'll take the oil tanker and they'll hold it hostage for the oil. So
Oh,
then they'll
okay.
say you need to pay $1 million or however many millions of dollars to get the oil back.
So basically now they're brokering the boat.
Right. They just take control of it, and they take control of it. And it doesn't take much because there's not very many people on a boat, and there's most of those people aren't armed, nor do they have any knowledge of how to defend against pirates coming on.